So we talked about the Jewish remnant coming back, and on their way back, going through this terrible Holocaust thing, they survive. They're going to meet up with their ancestors. There'll be a resurrection of the Old Testament saints. Let's talk about that, and a resurrection of the Tribulation saints. Imagine that. You're coming back, and you're seeing all your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, David, the prophets, Daniel, Jeremiah, etc., and they're coming back, and they're going to the tribes are going to go to their territories. They're going to be restored. You know, Simeon and Joseph, etc. And these descendants are going to be lined up with their appropriate tribes, their ancestors. There's also going to be tribulation saints coming back. Some of those tribulation saints are Jew and Gentile. Some of them may have been killed by the Antichrist. Some of them may have been family members from the remnant that fled. So they're going to come back, and they're going to see this happen. They're going to run into these people resurrected from the grave, these believers of old that was saved through faith. Hebrews 11 tells us that. That's how they were saved back then. Proof text on the resurrection of the Old Testament saints. Your dead shall live together with my dead body. They shall arise. Awake and sing, you who dwell in the dust, for your dew is like the dew of the herbs, and the earth shall cast out the dead. Daniel tells us, and many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And we'll be talking about that group as well as we conclude. But the everlasting life that are coming, we're talking about the resurrection of the Old Testament saints, and of course we'll get into the New Testament saints, the tribulation saints, in just a moment. There's Abraham, picture Abraham and Sarah in that upper image, and there's David. We're talking about them coming back, fulfilling prophecies as resurrected Old Testament saints. The tribulation saints, we're told they will be resurrected as well. In Revelation 20 it says, and I saw thrones and they that sat on them, and judgment was committed to them. Then I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for the witness to Jesus Christ and for the word of God, who had not worshipped the image of the beast, had not received his mark on their foreheads or on their hands. These are the folks who will become believers in the tribulation and will not accept the mark of the beast, which is available, only made available at the second half of the tribulation. But this covers the group of saints, including those in the second half, who were beheaded for their faith, martyrdom. They lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. They're going to reign with Christ. This will be their role. But the dead will rest and not live again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. So they conclude the first resurrection essentially. Now we find among these groupings, there will actually be three groups I believe that will fit into the tribulation saints. We find in the fifth seal, the saints of the fifth seal, they're sitting under an altar. They've been martyred for their faith after the resurrection. And they're asking God, how much longer? How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? So they don't know how much longer this martyrdom is going to happen to that group, the fifth seal saints. I personally believe that they die in that gap period, and that's why they don't know how much longer that's going to go on. I put that into my next prophecies book. Some people believe that this happens in the early first half of the tribulation. You know, they could be right. The point is there will be fifth seal saints, and what God says to them in the verse below by the fifth seal image. He says to them, then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. So he's talking about three periods of Christian martyrdom after the rapture. The fifth seal saints, they have fellow servants, and their fellow servants have brethren. So here's how I think that's going to pan out and happen. And this is my own work on this. You won't find this elsewhere, so don't take my word for it. I believe the harlot world religion, who's drunk with the blood of the saints and the martyrs of Jesus, according to Revelation 17:6, is involved in killing the fifth seal saints, and I believe they are killed in the gap. And that's why they say, I don't know how long is this going to go on? Because if they were killed at the start of the tribulation period, they could calendar the days of 7 years, 1260 days the first half, 1260 days the third. They would be able to know how much longer this was going to go on. I believe the fellow servants of the fifth seal saints are also killed by the harlot world religion, who is carrying over into the first half of the tribulation. And she's killing them in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. But then the 10 kings at the midpoint of the tribulation desolate the harlot, And the Antichrist kicks in, and he's beheading Christians who don't take the mark of the beast or worship his image. And I believe those would be the brethren or the fellow servants of the fifth seal saints. Like I said, this is my thoughts on that. But anyway you look at it, there are tribulation saints, martyrs, that are going to happen at that period of time.